Good morning to everybody. Javed ji.
Good morning आपको भी.
Morning.
I think my video is not coming.
Yeah, it's not coming.
Let me try.
Yeah.
Avinash, your video is also off.
I think if everybody can put a video on for a minute, then we can click on snap quickly.
Good morning to everybody. Javed ji.
Good morning आपको भी.
Morning.
I think my video is not coming.
Yeah, it's not coming.
Let me try.
Yeah.
Avinash, your video is also off.
I think if everybody.
So we'll start now.
Yeah, we'll start, and I'll request everyone to put the video on for a minute so that we can click a snap, and then probably you can switch off your videos if you want.
Videos and audio to be switched off to everyone.
For a minute, videos to be switched on so that we can click a snap.
Yeah.
I can't see Professor Manoj. I can't see Swati. Yes, I can see you now. Swati, can you be online?
Hello. Now I think I am visible.
Yes, you are very much visible. Excellent. Thank you so much. Swati, you are not visible still. Anyway, I'll click a snap with this. So please put your videos on for a minute more. Yeah, once more, probably. Yeah, I request all of you to put your video on for a minute, just for a minute. No, I think some of you are not coming. I think there is a bandwidth issue. There is a bandwidth issue. Okay, probably we start. I think Avinash, you can start.
Yeah, sir. I request all to just mute the audio for them. Very good morning to all in a yearly event of India International Science Festival IISF 2020, which is jointly organized by Science and Technology related Ministry and Department of Governments of India and Vijayana Bharati. Due to the prevailing condition, ISF 2020 is being held during 22nd to 25th December on a virtual platform under the theme Science for Atmanirbhar Bharat and Global Welfare. Today's virtual event of Curtain Raiser and Vigyan Yatra program is a part of an outreach program under the aegis of India International Science Festival, which is being organized by National Center for Polar and Ocean Research, NCPOR Goa. To introduce with some interesting research on polar risk and oceanic realm, I, Dr. Avinash Kumar, take this privilege to warmly welcome all the distinguished panelists and participants on the online platform. Before starting, I'll just say that NCPOR is an autonomous body under the Ministry of Earth Sciences, Government of India, which is a mandate to work on polar and their surrounding ocean as well as deep ocean resources. The goal of this mega event to enlighten with the focus on scientific knowledge among the youth, develop advanced skill, creativity, critical thinking, and problem-solving teamwork effort. ISF first edition was launched in 2015, which is a celebration to promote the science and technology and demonstrate how science could lead India towards a developed nation within a short span of time. We hope this effort will fuel India drives towards become a Vishwa Guru. ISF is a huge platform bringing toward the various stakeholders such as students, researchers, innovators, artists, and general public to celebrate India's achievement in science and technology. I would like to address great thoughts given by our former president and scientist, late Dr. Abdul Kalam. He says that learning gives the creativity leads to thinking provides knowledge makes you great. With this, I would like to add, learn more, research more, come up with your own innovative idea, which will definitely take our nation in a new heights. As the theme of this Atmanirbhar Bharat, it is a word itself defined importance is being self-reliant and self-generating, which, which has a 5 pillars that is called economy, infrastructure, technology, demography, and demands. Right from the beginning, technology played a bigger role in subordination of the society and developing a nation at all is the sphere. As rightly said by Mahatma Gandhi, that nation culture resides in the heart and in the soul of its people. Therefore, I believe our nation will accomplish its goal once we develop interest in young, curious mind toward the science and enhancing their natural curiosity and make them interested in acquiring the new knowledge, asking the question, and starting the quest for the answer. That's what they say. Our great scientist, Sir C.V. Raman says that we must teach our science in a mother tongue. Otherwise, science will become a hybrid activities. It has not been an activity which is people can participate. So today's India, as well as the world, is facing a huge number of natural calamities and challenges. It's a time to bring the scientific innovation to outcome these challenges and provide a solution in this area. We need to create a new explorative and creative opportunity to ensure that students of this generation will future scientific brain should have a deep understanding of science and making our nation in the new heights. We have organized this event which intend to inspire our curiosity, your curiosity, and make the learning more rewarding. Without taking much of the time, I will invite our respected director, Dr. M. Ravichandran, to deliver the inaugural address and start this Vigyan Yatra. Sir.
Very good morning to all of you. First of all, I welcome all the dignitaries in the panelists, especially Parsekar Saab, Godse Saab, and Professor Manoj Kumar, Sri Hassan Khan, and Dr. Rahul Mohan, Dr. Avinash, Sri Rakesh, and Dr. Swati. I think this is very good initiative. First of all, I thank you for your participation in this mega event. It is very, very important activities. And you all know that IISF is very important initiative by the Government of India, along with the various science ministries and the VIBA. This is actually 6th edition of the India International Science Festival. And as Sri Avinash Kumar told, it will be held in next week. And the 5th edition was in Kolkata. And this is mainly because this time we are able to organize through virtually because of the COVID pandemic. This festival is to celebrate the achievement of India's scientific and technological advancements with the students, innovators, technocrats from India as well as abroad. The main objective is to promote science and technology and also how to demonstrate the science that lead towards the developed nation within a short span of time. Towards this, the aim of this is to engage the public and especially students with the science and celebrate the joy of science. To show the ways of how the STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics will provide solution to improve our people's lives. Of course, any country's growth will be largely depend on the innovation. Without much innovation, the country's GDP will not grow much. For that, we need our young minds. So for that young minds, we need to inculcate the importance of the science to their minds so that they take up the science as the important activity in them. Second thing is, it is our endeavor to translate to science this, translate the science to society. Only science, of course, it is very important, but we have to translate whatever the science has come out, that has to be useful to the common society, though thereby we improve our knowledge as well as the utility. Bring solutions. Of course, we always to bring the solutions from science, technology, engineering, and mathematics for the new innovations. Without innovation, we will be in nowhere. I think with this initiative, I think whatever IISF started, it is a very great initiative. And I think this is not, it should not be a one-time affair, like 1 day or 2 days meeting. I think in every it has to be a continuous process. I think we have to educate our students to more and more the knowledge about the importance of science and the teaching methods of science. That is very important. The teaching method is very important. Without that, people will not able to understand or love the science. In order to love the science, we have to teach in their own language, their own understanding, and their way of grasping power. So we have to teach. So that is more important. So apart from that, I think we are in Goa, and at least in Goa, what are the scientific institutions are there and what they are doing. At least the young minds, young students should know about the institutions working on it in various science disciplines, so that they can motivate themselves to excel science and innovations. I think this is a very important initiative. And once again, I thank you all for joining with this initiative. And I am sure this, in long run, this IISF will be very successful, and more young minds will join in the science endeavor. I thank you once again for joining in this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for the inspiring words and enlightening us with the new thoughts and giving the inaugural for the Vigyan Yatra and Curtain Raiser program. Now we are moving for the second part of this program, that is a panel discussion. So I would request Dr. Rahul Mohan, Scientist F and Group Director, International Cooperation and Outreach, NCPOR, to take over this panel discussion as a moderator and to proceed this program. Sure, please.
Thank you, Avinash, and thank you, Dr. Saab, for the nice words. So, namaskar and suprabhat to everyone. It's a pleasure to see an illustrious panel today along with me. The topic for today's panel discussion is Challenges in Science Popularization. As I told you, we have an illustrious panel which includes Sri Lakshmikant Parsekar, Professor Manoj Kumar Pataria, Professor Suhas Godse, Sri Hassan Javed Khan, Sri Rakesh Rao, and Swati Nagar. So, let me have the honor of introducing the panelists very briefly to you all, so that you know the panelists and you can put questions post we have the panel discussion. So, first and foremost, Sri Lakshmikant Parsekar is a postgraduate in chemistry, has been associated in the field of education from being a teacher to the principal and now the chairman of Harmal Panchakroshi Shikshan Mandal, Ganpat Parsekar College of Education. He and late Sri Manor Parikar were contemporaries and they entered politics around the same time. Most people know Sri Parsekar as the former Chief Minister of Goa, as also the Education Minister of Goa, who did some marvelous work as Education Minister. And he's also currently the chair of the committee for examining the new education policy 2020 for Goa and preparing the policy and a roadmap at the higher education level. This is very critical for a very small state, but an efficient state like Goa. Welcome, sir.
Namaskar. Namaskar.
Let me introduce you all to another science communicator, a scientist, and a beautiful communicator, Professor Manoj Kumar Pataria, who is currently advisor at Science and Engineering Council, Department of Science and Technology. He served as Director CSI NISCARE, Additional Director General of Prasar Bharati, and he is of course decorated with a number of national and international awards. I'm not going to read them out here.
Namaskar.
Professor Suhas Godse is a soft-spoken person, a teacher at the college, as professor at a college here, a wildlife enthusiast, a photographer, and is the president of Vigyan Parishad Goa. Under his guidance, Vigyan Parishad has been instrumental in organizing the Science Film Festival on a yearly basis and other events related to science popularization. To me, he's just a call away always. The next person who I'm going to introduce is one whose name is associated with one of the most popular and the largest selling monthly science magazine in India. And any guesses? Yes, most of you must have guessed it right. It's the Science Reporter. And he's none other than Shri Hassan Javed Khan, a principal scientist at NCPOR and the editor of Science Reporter, a prolific writer, very prompt on social media. I follow him regularly. And obviously, he writes so many editorials. But one thing which I liked about him is that he connects people through radio talks. And that is an effective medium if you want to reach the rural masses. And probably the PM, the Honorable PM, has rightly shown how radio can connect with the masses. For all the good work in the field of science popularization, he was awarded the National Science Popularization Award by the Indian Science Writers Association. Welcome, Sri Hassan Javed Khan Sahab.
In addition, Mr. Javed is chief scientist, so a minor correction.
Okay, I correct myself, and Javed Khan Sahab is the chief scientist at NCPOR. So another gentleman whom I love to call as a science enthusiast is a master's in physics, into science filmmaking, which is his passion. That is, and he and his film Climate Challenge is the winner of the Best Science Film Award at the International Science Film Festival. That is our good friend Shri Rakesh Rao, the founder of NCPOR Production, a firm which dedicates to developing content related to environment, science, and technology. So he's into promoting science and climate change awareness through films and photography at colleges and schools countrywide. Last but not the least, our own colleague Swati Nagar is currently on leave, nursing her little angel. She's our colleague in the outreach at the National Center for Polar and Ocean Research, a doctorate in zoology. She drafted herself into science popularization, helping our domain of polar regions to reach at the level of schools and colleges. Well, with these small introduction of each of the panelists, I would like to give each of the panelists about 3 minutes for opening remarks on the theme for today, that is challenges in science popularization. And before I begin, just a small request that Professor Manoj Kumar would leave by 11:30 or so, because he has another, probably an online meeting. So I'll start with Professor Shri Lakshmikant Parsekar ji for his opening remarks. So you have about 3 minutes to tell what do you feel about this. How do we popularize science, and what are the bottlenecks that you must have faced?
Good morning, friends. Organizers of this webinar have rightly chosen a very important topic for today's panel discussion, I would say. Our Constitution, which is our guide, Article 51AH of Indian Constitution upholds one important thing. It states that every citizen is required to uphold scientific temper. It is the fundamental duty of every citizen, and therefore a public understanding of science is very much essential for every citizen, for his family, and the society as well. When I say
Sir, we cannot hear you. I think there is an audio disturbance. Sir, can you hear us? So I think that we are still not connected with Parsekar Saab. I think we have lost the connectivity with him. Yes, sir. Can you go ahead? Can you hear us? Okay, I think we are still not getting him, and I think I'll request Professor Manoj Kumar Pataria to please give his opening remarks, as also that you would need to leave so that you can put in your comments apart from your opening remarks. So we'll request Parsekar Saab to wait for some time, as I request Professor Manoj Kumar to say a few words, because connectivity, I think, is an issue now. Yeah, Professor Manoj Kumar, please.
Okay, good morning, everybody. And I am really very happy to join this wonderful program, the launch of Vigyan Yatra. And I also congratulate NCPOR for organizing this event under the banner of India International Science Festival. And all the panelists and the director of NCPOR, other fellow scientists and science communication enthusiasts. I would like to share some of my estate thoughts on this occasion, because the theme you have chosen is very dear to me, that is challenges of science popularization. As directors are already mentioned, that we need to develop more educational material, especially educational aids, for making science education or science communication simpler for the laymen, especially for the students. And I'm very happy to see that one of the scientists, Dr. Swati Nagar, is really doing very well. I happened to meet her in a recent meeting, and she was able to showcase some of the gadgets and some of the innovative educational aids that are really very, very important, especially in the area of earth sciences. So I really appreciate the efforts being put in by NCPOR and Ministry of Earth Sciences for science communication and popularization. One of the things that comes to my mind is, now we need to graduate from the current status of science communication to the technology augmented science communication, and taking it to further level. For instance, recently I came across, and you must have also seen over the social media, that there were some visuals which were becoming viral, supported by virtual reality and augmented virtual reality. So now it is the time to graduate for application of these activities like artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning for science communication. So I think because we all belong to somehow Ministry of Science and Technology or Ministry of Earth Sciences, so we have the acumen of science and technology. At the same time, if associated with communication acumen, I think we can really do wonders. And I am happy to see it is happening with the help of scientists and communicators. And number two, I would like to say that if we need to go along the world is going on in the area of science and technology communication, we need to promote research in science communication as well, like we are doing in other areas of science and technology. So science communication also has a potential, also has a lot of opportunity for undertaking scientific research in the area of science and technology communication and popularization. For instance, I think Mr. Javed would share that this year has started PhD in science and technology communication. So that is an opportunity for youngsters to join, in fact, these courses for pursuing research in science and technology communication. Apart from that, those who are working in laboratories, those who are interested in science communication, they can also undertake various kinds of researches. And for that purpose, I think such panel or such experts can really guide the youngsters for having research in science and technology communication. And my third point I would like to share that since NCPOR and Ministry of Earth Sciences have been taking expeditions to North Pole or Antarctica, etc. So how about taking some time some enthusiastic journalists or science communicators or media persons to these expeditions? So I think that would be an opportunity for giving first-hand information, not only Antarctica and North Pole, but also on other establishments. So these things can be coordinated by organizations like Indian Science Writers Association or CSIR NISCARE or some other organizations. So this kind of association of science and media can go a long way. So these are some of my ideas that I wanted to share. And because I need to leave early, so I wish the program goes very well. And whatever questions emerging out of my views, I think this esteemed panel, I would request to kindly answer these questions. And I once again congratulate and thank you for giving me this opportunity. Namaskar.
Thank you, Professor Manoj ji, for sparing your time and giving your words. I think that's very critical, and I hope that you keep associated yourself with the Ministry of Earth Sciences as also with NCPOR, and keep sharing your ideas so that we can take science to the grassroots level, not only to schools. Thank you so much. और आपका बहुत शुक्रिया और धन्यवाद.
Thank you. Namaskar.
इस स्वर में मैं
I will take leave whenever I feel like before 11:30. Thank you so much.
नमस्कार. So मैं अब फिर से रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा पारसेकर साहब से कि एक बार फिर से वो बताएं हमें, क्योंकि बीच में लिंक टूटा और ये हमारा ये भी एक नई ट्रेनिंग है जो हम ऑनलाइन सिस्टम जो हमने पद्धति कोविड की वजह से अपनाई है. वी लर्न अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स, टेक्नोलॉजी विल इम्प्रूव, एंड आई एम श्योर बाय द end of this year and beginning of the next year we'll have more bandwidths coming into the play. So Lakshmikant Parsekar ji.
Yes, sir. I think most of my time must have been exhausted.
Yeah, no, it's okay. We would like to hear from you. Not a problem.
Sir, I was just mentioning about Article 51AH of our Constitution, where scientific temper has been made a fundamental duty of every citizen, and therefore every citizen needs to be careful in this. And when I said every citizen, it included the most humble sweeper working in municipality or panchayat, and also the most noble professor working in university. So also a teacher in a class, and also a mother in a kitchen. It is the prudent responsibility of all these people to make science or for popularization of science. Now, when I, as teacher, when I look upon this, teacher needs to increase curiosity among the students. And while increasing the curiosity in a subject, it may be any subject, that subject needs to be understood properly. And for that, English language should not be a barrier. Particularly, science teachers should encourage students to speak in their own language also. Even teacher needs to go to the level of the student, take the student into confidence, and teachers also need to converse in the students' language. That is very much important, because unless the topic is understood, unless science is understood, you cannot develop interest therein. Today, while we teach science, much emphasis is given on the theory part. It has to be not the theory, but the practicals. Now, for instance, if a process of photosynthesis has to be taught, in a class, the student understands it theoretically, he writes it properly, he gets full mark also in exam. But the process of photosynthesis is best understood by the student when he comes home and he appreciates that the potted plant kept in the house, even though it is watered properly, it is not growing properly. It is gradually getting dried. So the phenomenon of photosynthesis, while he has studied in class, he needs to implement here in the house, whereby he takes a decision, he takes up the pot and goes out in sunlight, he keeps it over there. If he understands photosynthesis clearly, then only this particular work is expected from him and he is eligible to get full marks. Science, even today, lays emphasis on theory only. Now, during this pandemic, I have seen some institutions doing practicals also on mobile, I would say. So teacher is doing and students are observing. That should not happen. The NCERT books are in general, but the state needs to prepare books online with the requirement of the state, as per the requirement of the land. And the activities particularly which are shown below the books are not taken seriously by the schools or by the teachers in general. What is important, most important, are the activities mentioned below the topics, the projects which we ask the students to complete. They are again for formalities. It is a copy paste that should not be done. I feel the national education policy, which is coming from next year, which is to be implemented at 5+3+3+4 stage, I am sure new pedagogy, new methods would come out, would be coming out and would help in largely popularizing the education. As regards parents, I feel parents play a very important role. It is not only the teachers who are responsible for this. The day-to-day functioning, the activities in house, the kitchen in particular, are all related to science. I think the present day parents who are very educated, quite qualified, should correlate every activity in kitchen and in kitchen garden also with the science. For instance, the pickles the mother has prepared, while preserving it, is kept under proper boil. Oil is added. Or for fish, dry fish, to for preservation, salt is added. Or for jam, mango jam, sugar is added. These are not done to increase the taste, enhance the taste, but these are preservatives, and it is science. This has to be taught to the students, taught to the children in the house. Even many other things like 3 R's in life: reduce, reuse, and recycle, which we say, should be well understood by the parents and should be digested by the children. Instead of buying a doormat, students or the children should be advised, or children should be helped to prepare doormats out of the say saris, old saris, or old clothes, or bed sheets. Then even the waste that is being formed in kitchen has to be segregated. Children should be learned, trained to 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 separate it, segregate into dry and waste, and whereby the waste one would go for composting. Composting will go for compost will go for kitchen garden. Kitchen garden will give you the organic vegetables, and which will give us healthy food. These things need to be taught to the children in house only, at home only. The tulsi plant that we worship, its use has to be emphasized before the students. Even the usage of utensils, the best utensils are earthen pots, terracotta, or the cast iron. This has to be told to the children in their childhood only. House, in fact, is the largest laboratory from kitchen to kitchen garden, and therefore the today's parents need to make the best use of that instead of sitting before the TV and watching serials like Saas or Bahu and all that. The teacher, the parents, along with that, the society or the administration also has a very important role, and therefore, like Kerala, which has taken a very interesting initiative, some other states also have taken. I have been to Kerala and I have seen Cafe Scientific in Kerala. It is an interesting initiative wherein the concept of relating to science is displayed all around, and there is a huge footfall over that. The science city concept in Goa, we have Goa Science Center. It is a small symbol of the science city, I would say. But every state needs to have science city where some nanotechnology, space technology, agriculture, environment, industries could be shown in a short form, where students, visitors, tourists, people, irrespective of their age, irrespective of their age group, irrespective of their economic status, would appreciate and understand the science properly. I think as government or administration, as teachers, we teachers, and as parents, we all need to be careful in this regard, and every initiative of ours should be correlated to sciences.
Thank you, Parsakar sir, for your remarks. And I think you have taken us from students' curiosity to teachers' learning to utilization of organic waste to utensils. So there your chemist in you has also appeared as a teacher as well as a chemist. So thank you so much for your remarks. Now may I request Professor Suhas Godse to give his opening remarks on the science popularization, which he is himself taking up in Goa in a big way. Professor Suhas Godse, please.
Good morning. Both the speakers earlier to me have covered very interesting aspects of science popularization. I would like to go a little bit theoretically into what's popularization, because we know what is science. So popularization, it refers to making something known, accepted, liked, and admired. Now, popularization has to be done by popularizer. Naturally, one of the most important one we have already heard about is the teacher. But then scientist can also be a science popularizer. Here we have often a problem because scientists are good in work but are not good in communication. Or when they communicate, their language is extremely technical, which does not cause an liking or an interest amongst the people who hear it if they are laymen, if they are not well connected to that subject. So that is the limitation. Very few scientists have been, like Dr. Jayan Naradikar, have been very good communicators. But then otherwise we find a lot of shortage here. Then we find that media, it has been just said a few minutes back. So media can be a very important science popularizer. Here we have a little bit of problem. In fact, this problem is century-old problem, that the communicator, if he's from media, has to be unbiased. If the person is biased, either you find the person who will try to push, will hide the shortfalls of technology or some scientific information, and will highlight what is suitable to his mentor. At the same time, we have critics who will not give much importance to the advantages of the scientific finding, but will highlight what are shortcomings. In fact, we have seen genetically modified organism, GMO trials, have been put on hold in this country, in spite of assurance for all the precautions that will be taken. Still, we have gone nowhere in this particular field because of a very strong lobby working against it. Or yet one more example is that for years together, EV, electric vehicles, where that technology was being suppressed. And today, when EVs are coming into market, there's a lot of hue and cry about the toxicity of the battery. Well, you have to, or the science communicator has to be unbiased, balanced, should have full know-how of what he is trying to popularize or bringing it forward to the people. Well, this is something basic I talked about. Science popularization, we all know, has to be at the level of the society, at the level of layman, and also at the level of student, because tomorrow's scientists are generated based on how we train up, how we make our students interested in science. And here, as said earlier by Sri Parsekar, the teacher's role is very critical, very important. And I'm saying about teacher, right from primary up to the postgraduate level. At all these levels, the science communication has to be very effective, and that will interest the student, because likings that the children develop are mainly based on how the teacher teaches the subject or makes the student initiated, interested, makes them to understand. All this is there. And then coming to policymakers, they also need to be properly initiated or oriented on the science, right? Whatever is developing new, that is also equally important, because often they are the ones who are most important, yet they are not given the full background what has to be done. Now coming to Vigyan Parishad, which is the major science activity happening in Goa, and in fact its parent organization Vigyan Bharati, which is also the organizer, which is, I'm repeating, also the organizer of India International Science Festival right from its inception. Well, this we are involved in variety of public lectures of informative nature to dissipate the information to the people, and then there is the workshops for the teachers, hands-on. These have played very important role right from the ICT, that is information technology, being used for teaching. Then there have been many workshops for the students, and then a very important thing, Vidyarthi Vigyan Manthan, which is a competitive examination which promotes amongst the students the capacity of understanding, analysis, and also application. And well, these are some of the things. And the films are very important in means of popularizing science. In fact, there is about a century back old story when tuberculosis vaccine was to be inoculated amongst the population of US. There was a lot of resistance from the people initially, so much so that the government had to almost come with an ordinance that it's compulsory. But then a couple of films came up which changed the whole perspective of the people. And there used to be whole rush, and people used to they all cooperated with the vaccination program of US government. Well, the science can also be very effectively passed on, popularized through films. And we have the uh, Science Film Festival in Goa, which is unique in India, wherein NCPOR itself is one of the partners. NIO is a partner, and of course, NISCAD is a partner. Last year they were with us, and then CSIR laboratories are part of it, and then of course Vigyan Prasad, the Government of India's DST's arm for science popularization. So films, I'm trying to tell you, it can also be a very good way of propagating scientific information. So these are some of the points. And then, of course, Mr. Parsekar did mention about the science center. Yes, the science centers are important. Only thing is they are to be taken seriously. Because it should not become a picnic for the school that they just come in and go. Another point to be mentioned here is science clubs in the schools are also very important in popularizing science. That can take the activity much better way. And these are some of the activities I thought I could share with you. And there is more we can talk about it later. But I think we can hand over to the next speaker.
Thank you so much, Professor Godse Saab, for your enlightenment and also your experiences that you have yourself witnessed, both as a teacher and as an organizer for different science popularization in Goa. I would now request Shri Hassan Javed Khan Saab to please say his experiences, because he is into the thick and thin of science popularization, leading science reporter, and so many editorials that he writes. May I now request Javed Khan Saab to give his remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Rahul. That's right. I've been in this field for about 30 years now, but I think much of the ground has already been covered by the earlier three speakers, leaving very little for me to touch upon. But anyway, thank you, first of all, NCPOR, for inviting me for this very important, very interesting event. I've been in NISCARE for the past 30 years. NISCARE was established in 1951 with the express objective of popularizing science, disseminating scientific information through journals and through magazines. And much before that, when CSIR was established in 1942, even before independence, one of the among the major objectives of establishing CSIR was disseminating scientific information and popularizing science among the people. So we can understand how important the Indian government has laid stress on popularizing science, taking science to the people. And if you closely examine all the science policies that have come up after independence, you will find that a common thread running through all of them of a major thrust being laid on popularizing science, inculcating scientific temper, taking science to the people. And the earlier speaker already reminded us about our fundamental duty of inculcating scientific temper among the people, which is enshrined in the Constitution of India. that's a very important point, and I think each one of us needs to embed this philosophy in our consciousness. Each one of us is responsible for communicating science correctly, and I'll come to that sometime later. Of course, science communication and science popularization has been important for many reasons. One of the reasons being, as the earlier speakers have already mentioned, taking science to the people, because India is a very vibrant democracy, and a democracy cannot be strengthened if a major part of the population does not have access to scientific information or does not have the right information to take decisions. So that's a very important point that science popularizers, science communicators need to keep in mind. Of course, it also has a major role to kindle awareness, to motivate the young to take up science, because the country needs a regular inflow of scientists. And that's a major reason why science communicators have to keep on motivating the young to learn about the techniques of science and to take up science as a career. Of course, we also need to inform people about the future prospects of science. As science communicators, as science popularizers, a much bigger role is analyzing scientific concepts, scientific principles, scientific developments, and letting people know what to expect in the future. That's a very important ingredient of science communication. And of course, one of the earlier speakers already talked about, probably Dr. Godse talked about policy makers being taken into the fold of science communication and science popularization. That's a very important point. He's already made it, so I'll not go into that. And it's been a long time since we have had all these policies. We have all the institutions to back up this communication program and popularization program. This care is there. Vigyan Prasad, TST is doing wonders. And a number of other initiatives. Dr. Godse talked about Vigyan Parishad taking up so many programs to popularize science. And it is making a difference. It is making a huge difference. But when you come across instances like recent news report that in the markets of Lucknow, a Corona card is being sold, where you hang the Corona card around your neck, and it says it will keep away the coronavirus through some certain waves that will come out of it. Or an FIR being filed by the Maharashtra government against a manufacturer who is popularizing his mattress, saying it will kill all the coronaviruses. And the major example of where the Prime Minister's simple call of clapping hands and banging utensils to express solidarity with the health workers was sought to be justified scientifically through various bizarre explanations, right from creating the sound waves to kill the virus and so on and so forth. So when you come across these things, or in the initial stages of the coronavirus, we heard of the case of Iran, where almost 300 people died when they ingested absolute alcohol. Alcohol was thought to be popularized as a sanitizer for hands to keep away the virus. And so people thought probably drinking absolute alcohol would kill the virus inside the body also. And almost 300 people died because of the misinformation that was spread. So when you come across such instances, you realize that the struggle is not coming to an end. There is no end in sight right now. There is still a lot to do. There is still a lot to communicate, to get to the people, to reach the people with ideas. So what are the challenges? The challenges, as Dr. Godse already pointed out, one of the major challenges is the lack of enthusiasm among the scientific community to engage with the public. And they are the best purveyors of knowledge. They are the best resources of knowledge, and they can be the best communicators of that knowledge. So that enthusiasm stray initiatives are being taken in India, and I think it's picking up slowly. But it has to become a movement where the larger scientific community takes it upon itself the responsibility of talking to people about the research that they are doing, or talking to people about some of the concerns in recent science and technology developments. Another challenge is the lack of trained communicators. We don't have many trained science communicators or science writers. Dr. Pateria mentioned about NCPOR initiating the PhD research in science communication. It was actually Dr. Pateria who initiated that program in NCPOR. So we need more. We need many more science communicators to man the outreach programs of institutes throughout the country. We also have a need to sensitize the media. I remember I've been a member of the Indian Science Writers Association for a long time. And since the very beginning, since about 35 years back, we have been talking about the need to sensitize media to give access to more, to give prominence to more scientific news. But over the years, I've seen not much has changed. We are still at 3 to 5% of scientific news appearing in newspapers. So that's a big letdown. And but fortunately, the past 8 to 9 months have been one of this has been the period best suited for a science communicator, because science has come to the forefront. You find scientists and doctors on panels. You find science stories in prominent positions. But the more major point that I would like to cover here is that of information flow. See, there was a time when we were very concerned about lack of scientific information to be passed on to the public. That is not the case anymore. We have enough information. In fact, we have had an information explosion. We have millions of blogs, billions of websites, newspapers, magazines, podcasts, and so on and so forth, the latest tools and technologies. So there is no dearth of information which is reaching almost every person on this planet right on his palm top through his mobile phone. So there is no dearth of information. But the problem is of information overload. We have an overload of information, and through that overload of information, a lot of inaccurate, a lot of misinformation, a lot of fake news slips in, and which is today, unfortunately, making the major part of information flow through social media or through internet. And a study in 2019 in Science Journal, it found that the falsehoods generally travel 70% more faster than sound information. Very few people are interested in sound in information, but more people are interested in sensational information, which or miraculous information. So, and then debunking that bit of information becomes a lot more difficult. Nobody is interested in that. And they also found that the first 1,500 people the falsehood reaches the first 1,500 people 6 times faster. So that's the kind of scale we are talking about. And generally, another study found that people who generally share falsehoods or false information or misinformation are generally, they do it out of laziness, or they are probably distracted. But most people do it because they believe in that information, and that is what another study in the Proceedings of National Academy of Sciences talked about, of the occurrence of echo chambers, where you want to believe certain information, and you will talk about that information. You will move in circles where that information is talked about. You will not want to go out of that bubble. So that is something that has created a big challenge. Social media challenge is a very big challenge. And I think this is a challenge that has to be taken up front. And each and every one of us it needs to be informed, it needs to take up this responsibility of actively condemning falsehoods. We have there is a huge flow of misinformation through WhatsApp groups and so on, and each one of us, even our children, need to be
insight into how
live streaming is
the
on.
problem and issue of fake news and how we need to have better communicators reaching the masses. So we have on our panel somebody who is a science enthusiast, a scientist in his own league, Shri Rakesh Rao, a filmmaker who makes films on a very small budget, but puts his heart and soul into it. So may I now request Rakesh to share his experiences, how he feels about taking science communication and what are the challenges that he has faced, very briefly but very crisply, Rakesh. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir, and thank you, IISF and NCPOR for having this panel and a discussion on a very important topic of science communication. I don't think there's any dirt that needs any denial that science communication is not important. I mean, look at what's happened in the last 1 year with the pandemic coming in and the amount of information that has been put out in the public domain about the science of COVID and what to do, what not to do, and in a very scientific form. The biggest challenge what I find here nowadays is, Javed sir has already talked about it, is in the era of information, and plethora of information, having the right information is very important. There's so much amount of misinformation that happens, and how do you get the source and how do you fact check, that becomes very important. And people need to be I don't know, I mean, they need to take as much care even when it comes to science communication. Communicators, the young communicators who are now planning to become science communicators, to do a lot of fact check from right source. I guess that's the biggest challenge when it comes to science communication. But that's point A. Point B, I would say, I think one best thing happening being the last, I'll get a chance to speak less because everybody have already spoken and covered the entire gamut of science communication. And one thing what I feel is that apart from the science communication is just not restricted to only common people. Science communication comes in multi-stage level. I mean, science communication starts from the policy level. You need to inform the policymakers to take informed policy decision based on scientific fact. I mean, the best example is climate change, and develop a lot of policies that you can mitigate. And even, but it's happening in the form of, we all signed the Paris Agreement and we're trying to mitigate it. The second important stage is at the institution level. Like, for instance, what work NCPOR is doing, the other institutions should also know what work is happening. Of course, there is science publications that come up, but apart from that, it's very important that the communication happens between the institutions. So you never know what kind of collaborations can come up with new sciences that happens. And the main and very important, what I find now in terms of science communication is in the level where we need to start communicating science with the industry level. Giving a simple example is like the microplastics that I mean, there are data published in AVI that more than 12,000 microplastics were found in 1 liter of Arctic sea ice. So industries need to be highlighted, probably find different mechanisms. The research needs to be conveyed to industry so that they get involved in finding different packaging means, or even automobile industry. So Godse already talked about electric vehicles, and probably the innovation side also has to come into picture. The other example that I can give you of how industries play an important role and important science communication should go to them is when you see in November, December, the amount of air pollution that happens in Delhi, whether it's because of vehicular traffic or stubble burning. Industries find an easy solution of putting up a lot of air purifiers, and probably it's a profitable thing. But we need industries to start. The science needs to get communicated to industries to find and innovate solutions to stop these issues rather than finding short-term solutions of having air purifiers put up. The biggest another thing about science communication is that we need to also start changing with time. Today, if you see the attention span of a young kid or anything has gone down to 15 seconds. I mean, these are those 15 seconds on an Instagram or a Snapchat or a TikTok that that they want to see, and if they don't like something in those 15 seconds, they'll just swipe it and move on to something else. So grabbing that attention in that 15 seconds becomes extremely challenging, and there are a lot of cases where people have managed to do that kind of a thing. And yeah, that's probably the opening remark, because everybody else has already highlighted the gamut of the importance of science communication and challenges.
Thank you, Rakesh, for your remarks. I think we are running out of time, so opening would be the remarks for the session as well, quite possibly, because we lost quite a lot of time because of bandwidth issues. Nevertheless, I'll request now Dr. Swati to come in and give her remarks on her experiences that she faced popularizing science and taking polar regions to the schools and colleges in Goa and in the country. Swati. Swati, you have to unmute yourself. We cannot hear you. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah. Am I audible now?
Yes, you are very much audible. Go ahead and be crisp and short.
Yeah. So thank you so much, NCPOR and IISF, for providing this opportunity to discuss about the science popularization. And as other Revit panelists have already covered most of the challenges, so I'll just repeat a few of these. First thing is involvement of scientists, because we have been in outreach and we participate in exhibitions and organizes outreach events and popular science lectures and etc. So we need to involve more early career researchers so that they can tell their science stories and explain about the uniqueness of their research. And the second thing is the use of scientific jargons. At most of the panelists have mentioned that whenever we ask scientists for a popular science lecture, they use many scientific jargons, which may be very common in their community, scientific community, but the common people and the general students, they might not understand. And and third thing is language. English is a language that connects all over the world. But whenever we connect with the people at the grassroots level, general public or students, there are times when they are more comfortable in their native language. So what we do sometimes, we request the speakers to give their lecture, to deliver lecture in their language, maybe a Marathi or Konkani or Hindi, so that they may feel more comfortable, and this will enhance their they will show more interest in the topic. Besides that, since most of the things have already covered, one thing I want to add: since we are working for the polar outreach, so first thing is we are trying to make the people aware that Indian scientists are also working in polar regions and they are doing pretty good. So. Besides that, we also encourage the women polar scientists to be a part of outreach, because there are many times that people really astonished to see, okay, girls are also going to this extreme environment and working in Antarctica or Arctic or Himalaya. So these are the challenges that we face and how we do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Swati, and thank you everyone for chipping in and giving their viewpoint. But I think to sum it up, I would also like to make a small mention. I think it is imperative and very important that if you want to have science communication effective, I think the mothers, therefore, the girl child has to be taken care. So we need to sensitize the mothers, because I think science begins from the kitchen of the house. And science begins from the first step a child takes in the house. Science comes much later at school and colleges and universities. So parent sensitization is utmost important, and I would rather emphasize on mothers getting into small groups, trying to tell them about science, because this is where I think that we are lacking, and we need to stress a lot on the girl education, because I think that will give our future generation a lot to science. So before I close down, I think we have taken already an excess time. I thank all the panelists, but I'll request Dr. Avinash Kumar, who is coordinating this whole program, to take over and propose the vote of thanks to all the other panelists who have joined. Please, Dr. Avinash Kumar, please.
Yes.
Dr. Avinash, can you hear me?
Yes, yes. It's audible means?
Please
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. Now we are moving the further. Now we are thanks to all the panelists and especially Dr. Rahul Mohan for making this session is very viable on the science communication and popularization. I hope the discussion has beneficial for the scientific as well as the young audience and who is interested in taking their research on the general public. So I will be also requesting Dr. Rahul Mohan. There are some queries are there, and I have just forwarded. If any or one or two that can be discussed, it would be nice.
Okay, so I can see some from Dr. Louis. There are many, including one I'll pick up, especially regarding the EV, the electric vehicles. He says that electric vehicle companies should themselves take the battery, the lithium-ion batteries back for recycling, rather than asking the players for disposal. Because the biggest problem on this earth is the disposal of waste, and Goa is one of the prime examples. So each person, like what he's suggesting is, can the companies take back the battery? So, Professor Godse, would you like to take this? The problem of EV and the batteries that are being put forward.
Well, this is one issue which indirectly refers to the science communicator. But nonetheless, as the question has been raised, uh, directly this is an issue of the industry which promotes the technology. And it has been time and again said that, for example, recycling of batteries is not an easy job. It requires high technology, and therefore it will be ideal if the manufacturers take back the battery and give you the fresh one. In fact, nowadays, for the normal routine batteries, already that practice has been existing, wherein when we buy a new battery, we return the old battery, for which a token amount, some amount, is given as a discount, which actually possibly has been charged in the beginning itself in the cost of the battery. But then, while we return the battery, they refund us something. So maybe some such strategy will come up. And about the other electronic things, as you know, the TVs and all those which are old, they are already causing a problem. There are industries which are taking care, and there is a lot of discussion on this regard, that the recycling of metal, the valuable metals like silver and gold from these electronic gadgets. It's a very tedious process, and in India it is not done in very scientific way. It's crude, but then technology exists. It may be costly, but technology exists to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Godse. I think very rightly said that currently as well, what we are getting is these batteries are sometimes They are utilizing the recycled batteries and they are using them, and many companies are effectively using it, in fact. So, another question that is being asked is, and I will direct it to Shri Parsekar Saab if he can take this, is how effective we have been in bringing science or bringing the kids of rural areas to science, how effective we have been in this. And what is the issues that are there regarding the scientific temper, the questioning to the teachers that the students do? What are the hurdles that they face? These are some of the things that have been asked. So, Professor Dr. Parsekar, maybe you can highlight, because you have been a teacher, an administrator, the chief minister, as well as education minister as well.
Yes, sir. It is very much important that this issue needs to be tackled when the individual is in childhood. So the role is of parents and teacher as well. As regards teachers are concerned, I am not happy with the performance of the teachers at primary level in particular. At primary level, to arouse interest, to arouse curiosity, you need to have the best trained teachers, which is need of the hour. Secondly, the teacher's responsibility is just not covering the portion, conducting the tests, preparing the results, and deciding the promotions. It has to be much, much above that. But it is sure that teachers cannot be replaced. Teachers are to be reformed, in my opinion. That cannot happen overnight, but it has to happen. It has to happen. Wherein the pedagogy, change in pedagogy is a must. I'm sure national education policy is taking care of this. We need to have the best teachers in this flow. I am not. I am sure one day or the other that would happen. I am positive in that regard. I think we need to think like proton, which is always positive.
Fantastic. I think that is something that everyone should inculcate. And there is something that somebody shared with me yesterday, and I would like to share with everyone. When we say end, we normally say it's the end of the film or end of the show. But probably there was a new definition which I learned yesterday. It was end means effort never dies. And then somebody said, it's a big no, so you cannot proceed. So he said, okay, so no means the next opportunity. So this is positivity anyway. So one last question to Javed Khan Saab, if he's around. How do we encourage our scientists to come out as effective communicators? Because this is what we also feel, as you rightly pointed out, that this is the need of the hour, that our scientists should come out and feed the general public about the science they are doing in the easiest possible way. So your remarks on this before I close down the session.
Yeah, thank you. Some efforts are being made, as I mentioned. Science cafes are being held where scientists interact with the public, talk about a certain topic. But these are very few and far between. And you are right, this has to move on to being a movement where the larger scientific community realizes that they can be the best communicators of what they are doing. So, and I don't know how this can be done, because right now, probably they don't have any incentive. Probably they don't have much time. But when you spend 2 years writing a research paper, I think you can spend 2 days trying to distill that information into something that people can really understand. When we are already working on a research topic, you are the best judge how you can distill the information that would be of help to the public, and which a science communicator probably with no experience in that field would find it difficult. So the scientific community has to come to that realization themselves, and this has been happening in other countries, but somehow yet to pick up in India. So some incentives, probably DST has started programs like AFSAR, where they are awarding uh, uh, doctoral candidates who write about their research in a popular style. So probably things like these can be motivating for them. They can really try to inspire scientists, to the next generation of scientists, to get their research in front of the public. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thanks for putting in your time and effort and joining us. I hand over to Dr. Avinash Kumar to propose the vote of thanks for this session.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir, for making this program very valuable. So it is my sincerely thanks and express my heartfelt thanks to all the respected panelists. Sri Lakshmikant Pashekar Sahab, Honorable Chief Minister, Goa, and the Chairman of Ganpat Pashekar College of Education, Goa. I thank Professor Manoj Patikar Sahab, Patiar Sahab, and Advisor and Science of Engineering, Research Council, Department of Science and Technology, Goa, Government of India. My sincere thanks to Professor Suhas Godse Sahab, President of Vigyan Parishad, Sri Hassan Javed Sahab, Principal Scientist, NESCA, and Department of Science and Technology, Goa, for their presence and honoring us for this event. In spite of their busy schedule, he has agreed our request, and he was the panel. I also thankful to the Mr. Rakesh Rao and Dr. Swati Nagar for their stance toward the spreading the science of various platforms that not only include the students but the general public also. I extremely thankful to the sincerely thankful to the Dr. Rahul Mohan for his support for moderating this panel. And with this, I think we will be closing this panel discussion, and we'll be moving for the next program. That is the webinar, which will be will be there. And I'll request that panelists also, if it is possible, you can join with us and you can see the next program. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And we will be another, another 5 minutes, we will be connecting to the webinar program. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I think we'll start. Again, we are connected for the next program, that is a webinar. So we will start the webinar program, and there is some changes in the talk. There is one speaker, Miss Divya Devi. She is not able to right now to connect, so we will be take up her talk in the next program. So now it is we are moving for the interesting lectures on the polar and ocean regions. And I'll request all the people, if you have any queries and questions, they can write their queries in the text box, chat box. And so now we will be starting. Our next speaker is Dr. Ravidas Nayak. He is a scientist in NCPOR. And he's having very vast experience doing last 16 years. He has done his experience on the phytoplankton taxonomy. He has done his PhD from NIO, and right now he's working as a project scientist C in NCPOR. He has worked on the several aspects of phytoplanktons from the coastal and oceanic water of India. He has participated in more than 15 expeditions, including the Indian and Southern Ocean expedition. He has a very good experience in the sailing in the ocean. He has more than 300 days of the cruise experience. He has several national, international publications in the peer-reviewed journals. So now I think I'll not take much time of him, and we will be request Dr. Ravidas Nayak to connect and start their work, their presentation. Ravi, are you able to listen me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Avinash. I'm just sharing my. Am I audible? हेलो हेलो हाँ कनेक्ट हो रहा है शेयरिंग कर रहा तो हो नहीं रहा है हाँ 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 वही वही क्लिक कर दो वेट करो just a minute you can hear me Avinash I think Divya is also ready there
Yes, I'm ready.
So Divya, if you are ready, then you can also just try.
Yeah, I'm not able to share my screen here.
Divya, if you are ready, you can start sharing, and probably you can just see if your screen is
Yeah, visible or not. Sir, can you see?
excellent. So what I'll request Avinash is to introduce Divya very quickly so that she can start her presentation.
Okay,
Yes, sure.
I'll stop the sharing now.
Yeah, thank you, Divya, for It's your presence right now. We were worried that it is not going to connect, and thank you so much. So now, as per the schedule, Ms. Divya David will be with the next speaker, and who is she is working as a scientist in the Arctic Ocean Atmospheric Group of NCPOR. She is a physical oceanographer, and she was part of 9 expeditions to the Arctic and Southern Ocean and Indian Ocean. She is having more than 15 publications in a national and international peer-reviewed journals, and she is having very good experience. She has done. She was earlier worked in NIO as a junior research fellow and senior research fellows, and right now her topic is very interesting. She is going to talk from that is the topic is from depth to the height in an icy world. So now I'll taking not much time. I'll request Ms. Divya David to please start her presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Avinash. I'll share my screen first. Hope it can be seen by everyone. Avinash?
Yes, we can see.
Yeah. Shall I start now?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah. So a very good afternoon to all of you who are watching this presentation. Today, I first thank for the opportunity to interact with the audience, I guess, not only the school students, the technically strong seniors, juniors who are working in the field, and the students are my main audience to whom I try to interact with. Yes, in fact, like discussed in the earlier panel discussion, all of them were very vocal about the scientists having some problem in sharing the knowledge or the information, whatever they have, to the layman in a very effective way. So my audience is mainly students, I guess, and so I am a bit tensed after hearing the panel discussion that whether my talk will reach to your minds. But I hope and pray it will reach to your minds, because I'm going to take you all to a very mesmerizing and amazing world of polar science. So as a physical oceanographer who have done physics in BSc, and in MSc, I went to study the applied physics field of physical oceanography. So I'll be talking from the depths, that means the depth of ocean, the water column of the ocean, to the heights, that means the atmosphere, the air, which the atmospheric sphere, where we all live and breathe. So what the interaction between this depths of ocean and the heights of atmosphere is in an icy world. So when I say the icy world, I'll be talking about the polar regions, the North Pole and South Pole mainly. So this figure here, you can see a bathymetric topographic map of the entire globe, where I have marked with stars certain areas. So I would like to draw your attention to these marked places. In the North Pole, in the northern region, India have a station where the Indian researchers goes and take measurements of all types. It started with biology, but now India has been doing extensively research in almost all the fields, whether it is physical, which constitutes atmospheric, oceanography, glaciological, geological, biological, chemical, all the type of studies. So with that, we are trying to understand the entire system as a whole. And I am working in this particular area, that is the Arctic region, which is in the northern hemisphere, northern tip of the northern hemisphere. And now I'll draw your attention to exactly the opposite side in the southern pole, near to southern pole. There are two markings there, Maitri and Bharti. So these are the two stations in the Antarctic continental region where India has been doing the same type of, all the type of investigations. And coming to the Indian region, where you can see 3 stars close by. The top one is the station Himansh, which has been commissioned just 2 years back to study the third pole, named as third pole, Himalayas, because Himalaya is the region which holds more snow and ice, third to Arctic and Antarctic. So that is the third pole. And NCPOR, the institute which I am working in, is extensively doing research in all the 3 regions. And we need very fresh, very innovative, very bright minds to come into this picture, to come up and address and answer many of the questions which the entire world is struggling to get into. So now, what are polar regions? I already told you the polar locations where we are doing our studies, and now I'll be briefly describing what the polar regions is. So in the school, you might be well aware that the region to the north of 66.5 degree north latitude is called the Arctic region. And same way, whatever is south to 66.5 degrees south latitude is the South Pole region. So I assume that this lady here, this small girl here, shows the Arctic region, where I mainly will be talking about the Arctic region. And then you can see the Himalayas also marked here near to India. So North Pole, it was a US Navy engineer, Robert Peary, who first reached the North Pole region. And the Arctic Ocean and Antarctic has a main difference, where the Arctic Ocean, which is in the North Pole, is surrounded by land masses. The ocean is surrounded by the land masses, while it is just the opposite. That is the Antarctic continent surrounded by the Southern Ocean, which is in the South Pole. So John Davis, an American sealer who was a captain, also landed first in Antarctic mainland, but it was Roald Amundsen, a Norwegian, who reached the South Pole first in 1911. And then comes the third pole, where NCPOR is working. Like I told, it holds the snow and ice after these 2 polar regions. So now, why an institute in India, or why the Indians are that eager to know or to study the polar regions? Why we need to go? You might be having the same question in your mind. Why she is talking about the polar regions when we have an ocean which is named after our country itself, which is quite close by? Why we are spending this much amount of money and going to all these polar regions and bringing all these tons of samples? So this is a wastage of money. At least a part of the population will be thinking like that. So I'll try to make you understand bits and parts of what's happening in the polar regions. Over the last decade, the Arctic, that is in the northern top, has warmed by 0.75 degrees Celsius over the past 10 years. This is far outpacing than the global average. That means how much the entire globe is warming. So it is much more than that global average, while the Antarctic temperatures have remained comparatively stable. So when I say Antarctic temperatures are comparatively stable, a part of Antarctica is under the wrath of warming, while the other one will try to be normal or That's why, on an average, it is comparatively stable. Then now, as Earth approaches 2 degrees Celsius warming, most of you might, as nowadays the IPCC and IPCC reports on climate change and the events of climate events are very familiar because of the news channels and newspapers. You might be knowing that the Earth is approaching this 2 degrees Celsius warming. And in that circumstance, the Arctic and Antarctic may reach 4 degrees Celsius and 2 degrees Celsius mean annual warming. And to be noted is the winter warming temperatures of these two polar regions. The Arctic may reach 7 degrees Celsius and Antarctic may reach 3 degrees Celsius respectively, which is quite big, quite huge it is. So down, I have given two figures. The left-hand figure shows the average. Green line is the average temperature in Arctic, which is, you can see that it is increasing from left to right. And Antarctic is quite stable, I mean almost stable, but the global average also is increasing. So same, the temperatures is shown on the right hand side, the aerial maps of it. So now, okay, it is warming. Then what? Why, if it is warming, then why are we that much concerned about? So I'll be telling something about the expected and ongoing consequences of this warming. So ongoing land and sea ice loss. And like I told, the polar regions have ice on it and snow. So because of this white ice, that region is becoming more cold because it is reflecting 50 to 70% of the sun's radiation back. It reflects back. So that region is becoming colder, and that's the reason of the polar regions being cold. So when this land and sea ice is lost, when the land sea aligned as, especially when the land ice loss, that means the glacial melting, this contribute to global sea level rise. And if it is going under the present circumstance without any control, and if it reaches a particular a critical level of all these variations, it will reach up to 3-meter rise in the global sea level rise of 3 meters. So coming to Arctic, this particular warming and sea ice loss is a real threat to wildlife, because whatever life exists there and the human livelihoods also is dependent on the ambient situations which are existing in that polar region. So when it will be very warm, even in our place, if a day is warmer than the earlier one, we will say, oh God, it is too hot, how I'm going to wear that dress, or I'm sweating a lot, what I'll do? I'll take a bath twice or thrice. So we are very concerned and we are very tense. So imagine how the situation will be in the polar region. And then once this ice cover will start melting, this greenhouse gases, which are responsible for the global warming. So those type of gases, especially the methane emissions, will increase. And again, when the ice will be lost on the land, what happens? The greening means the plants and trees, the increase in the plants and trees in the Arctic, inside the Arctic Circle, it will increase. And that will further absorb more solar energy and will result in more warming. And this type of changes will also result in extreme weather at lower latitudes. So it's not only affecting the Arctic, because it's a single world we are living in. We can never distinguish and keep something apart. That means something that happens in India or Indian Ocean apart from any other parts of the world. So it will bring on extreme weather events at lower latitudes as well. In the Antarctic, especially with low biodiversity compared to the Arctic, the Antarctic ecosystems may be vulnerable to state shifts and species invasion. Why? When the temperature, it is when the situations will be warmer than now, the new species which are adapted to the tropical or the subtropical regions will try to invade to these polar regions as well, while those species in the polar regions will gradually disappear because of these drastic changes in the situations. So mitigation efforts can reduce this type of warming, but if the mitigation efforts are not done at the right time, then especially when I say this northern Arctic type of warming may accelerate in the next 2 to 4 decades. So to address this and to bring out this mitigation efforts, not only the rim countries around Arctic or near to Antarctic can bring out the changes. It should be done by the entire world, because like I told, nothing in the Earth system, nothing in the world can be treated as a separate entity. Everything is a single entity. So the international cooperation is a must. And that's where India also comes into picture and goes eagerly and do extensive works where we are not only doing or we are helping ourselves and the whole world. So again, from the very economical perspective of India, you know, it's a very simple example I'm going to describe, the same point which I told you. We have the monsoons, and we are quite familiar with the Indian summer monsoon. So there is a teleconnection. Teleconnection is an invisible connection which we scientists or researchers try to figure out from the measurements that we do from the polar regions and the Indian tropical regions. Not only with the observations, we also do modeling simulations, which are quite a set of mathematical equations and physics incorporated into it, where we use the whatever measurements that we observed from these regions and try to figure out what are the processes, in large picture of the processes, and what can be even the future simulations, like what will happen in the future. That's how we are saying that, okay, it may reach 7 degrees Celsius or it may reach 3 degrees Celsius. So teleconnections are this type of invisible connection between different parts of the world, So that's the teleconnection. So we know with, we have been doing observations for a certain period of time. And now we know that there is a teleconnection between the Arctic and the Indian climate. But we have to find it out, because I told it's a hidden thing in the measurements that we take from all the regions. So it is the duty of a researcher to find it out, which is quite interesting. So when you students can, when you learn physics or chemistry or maths or biology or whatever it is, never think, you try to tell yourself that tomorrow I'm going to apply this. So I want to understand what I'm learning now, because there are very interesting things out there where I have to go and find out. Because this oceanography, meteorology, and all these climate studies are quite younger field compared to the mainstream fields which are prevalent. But nowadays, we know the importance and urgency of understanding all these systems. So only the students and youngsters can keep this in mind and can prepare themselves to reach to that point with that much interest. With interest only, the good science will come. Then only you can find out these type of hidden relations. So here, now I'll tell a small relation. So here you can see the Arctic oscillation. So these are climate modes like monsoon. So it's another type of variability that exists in the Arctic region. So the scientists have read these hidden connections between this Arctic oscillation and the North Atlantic Ocean. I guess Some of you might be very well aware of the names of the oceans. Others can listen and go back and check. So the North Atlantic Oscillation, that is again a phenomenon that exists in the North Atlantic region. So scientists have found out part of the hidden relation between these two climate modes. And some other scientists, what they did, they have found out the hidden teleconnections between this North Atlantic oscillation and our Indian summer monsoon. So when you say, I'm trying to talk in your language. When you generally say A is related to B, B is related to C. So some connection will be there between A and C. So the same thing based on that we are working on. So there will be a connection between the Arctic oscillation and Indian summer monsoon. This is a field where many of the scientists are vigorously working in NCPOR. So same thing, not only with these three climate modes, there are connection with plenty of climate variabilities that happens around the world with our Indian monsoon, with our Asian monsoon. So one case study has been done by a scientist named Krishnamurthy and his team in 2016, which we might be familiar of the Uttarakhand rainstorms and floods. It was a huge flood. The temple and the Shiva statue almost submerged in water. Nobody can forget that picture, which was circulated in the news and newspaper, media, everything. So
sorry, Ms. Divya, to interrupting you. You have another 5 to 6 minutes, please.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. These type of events, they have found that these type of events that happens in India have a relation with the Arctic rapid ice melts. So obviously there is a relation which we need to study a lot and lot. So here comes the crucial part of my talk, which is the depth-height interaction. So here the left-hand side is the global conveyor belt. It is actually a connection between all the oceans that exist on Earth. So that's a connection where the upper waters will be warmer compared to the deeper cold waters. So how they are connected, how this heat and salt in ocean has been distributed uniformly, and which are the points where this heat is released or absorbed with the atmosphere. So the middle section shows that interaction processes. You can see the sun is the main source of energy, which is responsible for all these type of atmospheric ocean interactions. And then how it is being transported. In the ocean, we saw the global conveyor belt is transporting the heat and salt. So how the atmosphere is transporting from the equator to poles or back, there are three main circulation cells, which are named Hadley, Ferrel, and polar cells. So that transport these interaction changes that happens to different parts of the atmosphere around the Earth. So that's how this interaction happens. And this interaction happens at different time scales. We know mostly climate change or weather events. So climate means more than 30 years. And lesser than that, to a certain period, is the weather events that we experience in our day-to-day life. But there are certain building components which are of much lesser time and space scales, which are the building blocks, like bricks to our home. Those are the foundations. So the climate scientists not only say about the monsoon or bigger processes, they are sections of people are trying to find out that building blocks, understand the building blocks to better forecast or to better try to understand whatever happens in the polar regions and in other parts of the world as well. So now I'll just show you some pictures of our research, Indian research bases in Antarctica, where all the field of studies, investigations are going on. Like I told, whoever, if you are interested in physics, biology, chemistry, anything you can take for your degree and higher studies, and come back to this application level where you can find out the secrets of nature. now our human population is very curious to go back to nature and to know what is happening around. So in that case, it will be very interesting. And when you learn the basics, always keep this in mind, because you have to apply that for understanding you and for the betterment of human population. So these are the Indian research bases in Antarctica. We have two research bases which are operational, which is Maitri and Bharati, which are down here. You can see this too. And the Dakshin Gangotri, just the first station, is abandoned now because of non-working conditions. And then comes India in Arctic. We have started the Arctic expedition. When I say the Antarctic research base, India has been doing and has already covered 39 expeditions. The 40th expedition preparations are going on. And India in Arctic, we have started the expedition 2007 and has set up this station, Himadri, in Arctic in 2008. And like I told, all the field of studies are going on to understand the nature. And this is the monitoring systems in the Arctic, where the theme of this year's IISF, that is the self-reliant India for global welfare. So this particular INDAR, which is a mooring line, a line of instruments that are deployed inside the water column, and it will remain there for the next 1 to 2 years and record all the measurement variables like temperature, salinity, currents, and everything, biological, chemical, everything. So India have deployed it in 2014 for the first time, and now the 5th INDAR mooring deployment is in water recording the data. So these are the variables which I told. On the right hand side, you can see heights, whatever observation we are taking in the Arctic Atmospheric Observatory, where we measure the clouds, precipitation, rainfall. That precipitation, there it is snow. So we use that common word of precipitation and other things to understand the whole picture of interaction between ocean and atmosphere. And apart from this, we have the Himalayan studies, which has been started 2 years back. And this is our station in Himachal Pradesh, where the glaciers from Chandra Basin is studied now. Mainly the glaciological and atmospheric studies are going on in this region. These are all beautiful locations, which are equally adventurous, like the interesting fields they are. Coming to Southern Ocean, again to South Pole, the Antarctica is surrounded by the Southern. India has been already conducted 11 expeditions from 2004 in this sector. All the type of studies are going on, all the field of studies are going on. So entirely we are looking the trans-hemispheric changes to understand and to contribute the Indian contribution to the climate studies around the world. And this is another hydrothermal studies which is going on in NCPOR, which is a little bit different from the polar region, which happens in our near tropical waters and region. Comes the opportunities and challenges. I'd like to conclude my presentation of today by saying that the polar sciences is such an interesting and adventurous field. I mean, I have really no words to say or to tell you how much enthusiastic or how much enthusiastic you will be if you are coming to this field, because you're not only getting to find out the secrets of the nature and find out why what happens around us, it is equally adventurous, equally challenging. And the challenges are the real beauty of science in any field, and research especially, and if you take it as a profession in polar science field. So thank you all for your time and to hear what I had to say to you. So I'll conclude this with what Jean-Baptiste Charcot, French doctor and polar scientist, told. Why then do we feel the strange attraction for these polar regions? A feeling so powerful and lasting that when we return home, we forget the mental and physical hardships, the challenges and all other difficulties, and want nothing more than to return back to them. so susceptible to the charm of these landscapes when they are so empty and terrifying. So obviously, opportunities and challenges in this young field is open to you all. You have to just prepare for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Divya, for taking us the world to the eyes. There is one question from one of the audience has been asked that why the India's research in Arctic is located only in one location? Why not in a other location? Why research is focused in only in one location?
Yes, like I told, it's a place too far away from us. So we have just started. We have just started the full-fledged observations from 2011. And whenever we start a research, we have to first understand what's going on from our perspectives. So we have just started, and now our government and the scientists idea of extending it to other parts of Arctic, such as Canadian Arctic, and the talks higher levels are going on, which will be.
We will be try to cover up at the time.
Thank you, Nash.
So the next speaker will be the Dr. Ravidas Nayak. Earlier also I have introduced, but again I am going to introduce because some of the I think people has connected newly. So Dr. Ravidas Nayak, he is presently in a project scientist C in NCPOR. He has been 16 years research experience in the phytoplankton taxonomy, and he has worked on the several aspects of phytoplanktons from coastal and oceanic water of India. He has participated more than 15 expeditions, including the Indian and Southern Ocean expeditions. And he is having very good experience in the cruise. He has spent more than 300 days in the different voyages. He has published several papers in a national and international peer-reviewed journals. And not taking the much time, I'll be request again to Dr. Ravidas Nayak to take this program ahead.
अब तक था, अब गायब हो गया, कहाँ चला गया? My mic is on or what?
I'll request others to please mute yourself.
Some problem. Share also. But this taga purpose. No? I'll come. Okay, I'll share. But this is now present available. I mean, just I don't know whether it is. Hello, Avinash.
Yeah, it is visible now.
Now presentation is visible.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Sorry for this technical delay. Let me go straight to my presentation. Today I'll be speaking on this topic for breathing through the lungs of the earth. So I know it is little fancy title, and let's find out what it is. So just before going to my presentation, I would like to thank Dr. Rahul Mohan and Dr. Avinash for their consideration for my topic for this presentation. Basically, I'll be speaking more about my expertise and then the current area of research and its important. Then some scientific phenomena which is very important from the maritime states like Goa, and then little bit of discussion on that. Now, so without wasting the time, let's go and see what it is, the lungs of the earth. So I know basically by looking at this fancy title, most of you will have this kind of reaction, like and this will be the questions like, what are these lungs of the earth and how they are linked to us. So what I'm saying is like, okay, let's go and find out. And let me tell you one more thing, that this presentation I have prepared keeping the like students from the mainly from the schools and undergraduates in my mind. So I have prepared this presentation from their level of understanding, so that they can understand the presentation in a simplistic way. So what do we know about the trees and how much percentage of oxygen they produce? And then if there is a percentage, then what will be the remaining percent coming from? Like, so the answer for your question is like important. The trees, as we know, that they are important in oxygen production, and they are approximately they produce like 50% of the oxygen what is available on this planet. Rest is coming from the oceanic tiny producers. Now I know that there will be a next question in your mind, that what are these tiny producers? How they are responsible for the rest 50% of the production? What does they look like? And these are the obvious questions anyone will get. So let's take a closer look. So the answer for your question is phytoplankton. Now you will be wondering, what is this phytoplankton? So phytoplanktons are basically a microscopic algae, or you can say the way you see the plants on the terrestrial on the land. Similarly, oceans also have plants, but they are very small in size, microscopic in size, and that's why they are like called phytoplankton. It's basically a Greek word. Phyton means a plant, and planktons means a wanderer, because they can't freely swim. Most of them are move from one location to another location with the mercy of tide. Remaining this, what you can see on the slide is a little bit historical information, which you can easily access by just typing a keyword phytoplankton. Let me take you to the real importance of the phytoplankton. So I know, like as I said, they are microscopic and they are as important as our terrestrial plant. So definitely, the curiosity will be there in you that what does they look like, you know. So some of you, the school children, must be thinking, because since I said they are the oceanic plants, so the ocean means they get this kind of picture, but then they doesn't look like this, nor they do like this. Okay, but then they are as small as this, and you can have a look here and how small they are. It is a millimeter scale of this thing. And you can have a look. Yeah, in reality, how they look. These are the microscopic picture of the microphytoplankton which I have collected during my Southern Ocean expeditions. And under the microscope, they look like this. And these are the plants. You can imagine these are so tiny, so beautiful plants, which those can produce the 50% of the oxygen. And the 50% oxygen means, you can imagine, they are like responsible for our every second breath what we take, so or alternative breath what you take. So means your 50% of life support is lying there, living there in those oceans, okay, in these tiny forms. So have a look up a few more. You can see over here how tiny, how beautiful they are. You can see a few more. Okay. Now let me take you to little closer. Those I guess there will be some listeners will be from Goa, and I would like to show some species which is like commonly found in the coastal waters of Goa. This is one of the microscopic algae, phytoplankton. Basically, it is called a skeletonema. And when we see them under a normal microscopy, they look similar in this picture what you can see here. But then when we go for a detailed study using the SEM, scanning electron microscopy, and when we study their ultrastructure, they look like this. And based on these small tiny features, we have to differentiate them in a different species level. And this was the first time in India during my studies I have reported that in India there is not just one species, but there are two more species. And in fact, the whole world was looking for the sensu stricto, means the real sense, the first species which was described. It is there as a part, as a museum slide in the London, but they were not getting the real species. That, but we got it in a Donapula water. Another species which we reported for first time from the India, and again it is from the Donapula water, and that is a Carlodinium veneficum. Name itself shows that it's something venom in this, like veneficum. Means this species are toxic basically. If they grow in a large number, they can be a nuisance for the ecosystem. So what we understood so far, what is the lungs of Earth? Basically, they are the phytoplanktons, which gives up 50% of the oxygen, and they are the like responsible for every second breath what we take. So that means what we can understand is this phytoplankton is not just a subject of a researcher, but they are directly linked to the all the human beings and all the other life which requires oxygen. Okay, so you can imagine we are dealing with not just one tiny microscopic plant, but we are dealing with the our 50% of our life support. Okay, and we also saw that how does they look like. Now the next question is, now what else they do? Does they play any other role in our life? If yes, what and how? So let's find out. So before going to that, I just want to give, I want you people have to idea about, like, because nowadays, like, it is a very casually word and this thing like term every people use, like even if they are feeling a little bit hot, they said global warming. Okay. So what exactly it is, we normally nobody goes to study what it is, why, what are the greenhouse gases, which are the one like which contributes the more. So by looking at this IPCC 2014's report, one of this thing, you can see that what is the percentage contribution by the greenhouse gases. And next paper by the Borden et al., you can see that which are the major countries which are contributing to for this. But now my intention is not here to talk about the global warming or something. I want you people to have a look or understand that what is the major contributor, or who is the like which gas is the major culprit for this. So it is very clear that it is a carbon dioxide. Let's move to the next and have a look of what is the global carbon budget. And the latest budget, if you can see here, which was published in our system science data, you can see the current atmospheric carbon concentration, which has reached around 408 ppm level. That means it is increasing a lot. So now there will be, like, you will have a question. Just now you were talking about phytoplankton, why all of a sudden you jumped into carbon budget. Let me bring the link. Because as I said, they are the oceanic plants. Now let me explain a little bit the role of ocean in this climate studies. Here you can see the atmospheric CO2 which is present, which is normally get pulled in the ocean, because I said they are the plant, and you know what is the photosynthetic activity. Morning, our panel member was talking about the photosynthetic activity and its importance about a plant. So similarly, these oceanic plants also requires the sunlight as well as the carbon dioxide, and that is what CO2 is get pulled by this tiny phytoplankton. And as we know, their life cycle is not as big as the terrestrial plant. Their life cycle is just to 10 to 15 days to 20 days at maximum. So what is going to happen, that even the multiplication rate is that quick. So the phytoplanktons, or these microscopic plant, they grow, they pull the CO2 from the atmosphere, and after the death and decay, they start sinking. And they are not just sinking as a dead body, but then they are the organic carbon which is got trapped there. It goes down and it settles there in the bottom. That's how they can actually help to minimize the CO2 from the atmosphere. Okay, similarly, other side, if you can see, there are, like, physical activities also brings down the CO2 down, and that's how the ocean actually plays a very important role. Because if you see here what I have written down, that ocean contains 50 times more carbon than the atmosphere, and it is exchanging large amount of CO2 with the atmosphere every year. In the past decade, the ocean has slowed down the rate of climate change by absorbing about 30% of the human emission. Okay. And if you see from the industrial era, the amount of carbon so far absorbed by the ocean is reached almost like 150 billion tons. That again, it is a 30% of the anthropogenic emission over the period. So by looking at this estimate and by looking at this budget, you can have like an understanding, like, how important these phytoplanktons are. Not just they are providing our like oxygen, or they are responsible for our second breath, but they are also regulating the climate. So now here the little more explanation about, because in what are the different ways, like now CO2 is getting pulled. Here you can see the first one is something called gravity pump. That means the phytoplankton absorbs the atmospheric CO2, and through the gravity they go down after that death and decay of the phytoplankton, and that's how they take the CO2 the downward. Similarly, there is ocean mixing which takes the trapped CO2 down. And apart from that, there is a migrant pump. Migrant pump means there are grazers which feed on this phytoplankton, because this phytoplankton serve as a food chain, the base of the food chain in the ocean. They are another important significance of these microscopic plants are they are the base of the food chain in the marine food chain. So these phytofish which feed on them, so that trapped organic carbon goes inside the fish. Fish migrates down, swims faster than as compared to this gravitational downward flux. Fish goes down and they defecate there, and that's how that trapped carbon will be released there. So now this side, if you can have an idea that how much time it can store there, if it manages to go the below 100 meter, then that trapped carbon can remain there for 10 years. If it goes below the 300 meter, it can stay 100 years, and if it is below the 1000 meter, and it can remain there 1,000 years. So just you can have an idea that how important these phytoplanktons are. Now, as I said, I will talk a little about my current research and the link of this, whatever I said, like, with my current research. You can see this global map, the red dot. What you can see is this is basically my working area, or I can say a karma bhumi. Basically, this is the area called Southern Ocean. Southern Ocean is the area basically when you know about the equator, right? It is a 0 degree this thing, Celsius. As you go further south, and when you reach at the 30 degrees south, 30 degrees south and downwards, it's the entire area is called the Southern Ocean area. The area which comes below the Indian Ocean is we consider as the Indian sector of Southern Ocean. Similarly, the area below the Atlantic is Atlantic sector of Southern Ocean, and Pacific sector of Southern Ocean, which comes below the Pacific. Now let me tell you that what is the importance of Southern Ocean, like, because once I remember when I was giving a presentation to one of the schools here in Goa, one small kid asked me, like, when there is a lot of water here, why one has to go so far? So that was a very valid question. And to answer that question, we need to understand what is the importance of Southern Ocean. And before that, like, I would want you people to know that when we can go there, because the Southern Ocean is the ocean which surrounds the Antarctica continent, and like you can get that access. It is only during the austral summer, because that is the time there is a sea ice melting is there. You can have a look in the first two images. November there is a complete sea ice is there, but December it start melting, and further it melts in Jan and Feb. And this is the duration, this is the window of opportunity what we get. So we can go there, participate in the expedition, we can go collect our samples, and we can come back. Rest of the time it is like, sea ice covered. So, and not just that, but you can also have a look of this particular thing, like you can get an idea about how rough situation of the ocean, because you can see that, like, these are low pressure zones, and you can imagine number of cyclones or low pressures in that area. So one can imagine how difficult it would be to go there, stay there on a ship for 60 days, and you conduct our experiments or collect the samples. So obviously then there will be a question why it is so difficult, and it is like, then what is the need to go there? So this area is basically known as the HNLC region, because HNLC stands for high nutrient low chlorophyll. As I said, they are the plants. Okay, the plants requires a nutrient for their growth. So whenever there is a good amount of nutrient, the plant should grow better. So that means high nutrient, but then low chlorophyll. You know that low chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is the signature pigment for the plant, principal pigment of the plant. But then this area, behaves differently than our general nutrition. So general notion. So what happens if there is a plenty of nutrient here, but then there is not good amount of chlorophyll? That means there is no good growth of for the plant. You can see here this the down image which shows about the chlorophyll concentration. Here you can see the surface nitrate, it is plenty. You can see here surface phosphate, it is plenty, but then chlorophyll, it is not there. Why it is not there? Because later researchers realized that then there is a something is missing there, which is not a stopping the phytoplankton from there to utilize this availability of the nutrient. And that what what was the missing factor was considered as iron. And then because that iron, if there is no iron, then the assimilation, iron acts as a cofactor between the assimilation of these nutrients. So phytoplankton being there, they will not able to utilize this nutrient without the presence of iron. And that's the reason then the researchers thought that what if we go there and put some iron there? So what will happen then, that this much of already nutrient is there, the plants will utilize the nutrient very efficiently, and then they will grow like anything. The more the plant, more the absorption of CO2 will take place, and more the absorption, the more the carbon will be sequestered. And that was a plan in the initial days. And after that, people there were, or globally there were experiments, iron fertilization experiments took place, and below this image you can have a look. There are these dots shows that where and all which area they have taken iron fertilization experiment to study, like what exactly happens if you go and induce iron over there. But then the same time, if you see the area below the Indian Ocean, the Indian sector of Southern Ocean, there is not much information, or there is any such kind of experiments are there. And that's the reason it makes very interesting for us, the Indian team, to go there and study what is there, how much is there, and what governs them. Because these are all factors which is very important, because this phytoplankton, as I said, they are the primary producer. They are sitting at the base of the food chain. If some climatic changes are there, then they will be the first ones to respond that. Okay. And then that response, studying their response, we will come to know that how it is going to affect the entire food chain. So that's the reason the Southern Ocean is very important. Again, this is of the same thing. I will not waste more time on this. So now I want to tell about our activities and our team. So we basically participate in our Southern Ocean expedition using these are the vessels. What you can see on the top, it is our Indian vessel, which comes under our own Ministry of Earth Sciences. And then there is another vessel, which is a charter vessel, which belongs to a South African country. And by using these ships, we take part in Southern Ocean expedition. And this were our team during the Southern Ocean Expedition 10. And morning you heard Rakesh Rao, even he was a part of this expedition. Um, uh, for the first, those kids, those who wants to know like what we actually do once we are on ship, the first job is to go there and set up a lab. You will have a lab space, but then as per your requirement, because it is a multidisciplinary expedition, so you will have all different subject experts there, like biology, chemistry, physics, atmospheric, everything. So they have to set up their lab as per according to their requirement. You can see here our some of our researchers setting up the lab. Then once you start the journey towards the Southern Ocean, you start get to see some ice. You get excited to see the floating ice at the initial stages. And then you start get to see some interesting friends over there from the polar regions. More excitement. And then once you reach at your destination, and then you have to come out with your gears to collect your samples. Here you can see the different sampling gears which are used for the different multidisciplinary approach of the oceanic studies. After collecting the sample, you can have a look of this. Our team, some people are collecting the zooplankton sample, some are collecting the sediment core, some ISRO guys are doing the radiometry, and then our own people doing the chlorophyll estimation and biooptical measurements. These are some samples, and these are some onboard deck incubation experiments. So this is what I so far what I explained about the Southern Ocean, the current work what we are doing. And let me take you to the another phenomenon about the phytoplankton, which I tried to put here, keeping the Goa in mind as a maritime state in mind, where as well as that just few weeks back, whole entire west coast was witnessing a very unique phenomena, bioluminescence about because of some particular algae. So, so that's the reason. Like what we understood so far about phytoplankton, they are the good, they are the responsible for the oxygen, they are the food base of the food chain. They regulate the climate. They regulate the CO2 from the atmosphere. But then there is some bad thing about it that also we need to understand. So what is that? So basically, some you must have heard a term called harmful algal blooms. If you are not heard, then let me explain in a very simplistic word. So what happens, as I said, is microscopic plants are there in the ocean and all the aquatic bodies. Similarly, they are there in the coastal waters also. And as I said, they require a nutrient Whenever there is a availability of plenty of nutrient, they grow in a large number. Coastal waters, basically what happens, they are like, there is a drainage and there is a sewage, all those things contributes into the eutrophication. Eutrophication means increase in the nutrient concentration in the coastal water, and that increase results into the higher growth of phytoplankton. And sometimes they grow in such a large number that normally these microscopic algae, which you cannot see them in a naked eye, but then they will be increased in such a number that they can change the water color. And that's the reason initially the first bloom which was noted, it was named as the red tide, because that particular species, when they grow in a large number, it change the water color into red. And what happens if they grow in large number, it can, as I said, they are the base for the food chain, so they can affect the zooplankton. Zooplankton is eaten by the larger fish, and the larger fish, and it might reach to the human also. And it is not that, but in even or in India, there are several deaths, human deaths have reported on the mangrove coast because of eating the contaminated fish. Because these algae, these microscopic plants, some of them they can produce some kind of toxins, and because of that toxin, like, it can affect the humans also. So that is called harmful algal blooms. And what happens here, if you can see, this is in general the when you visit the coast, normally you see the water in this color, but during the bloom, if you visit, the watercolor will be like this. And even the viscosity, you can see here the density of the water, it will be so thick. And here you can see some of the examples of the large fish mortality. Normally in outside India, there are several countries, they normally, whenever there is a bloom, they normally put such boards at the coast, so that people should be aware about that, not to go to swim or not to eat the fish. But in India, that awareness is little low, so that these things are not there. So, as I said, India, it is not there. So let's have a look of Indian and coastal waters and the status of blooms. So you can see here, which we have done, like, one review of right from 1908 to 2009. And the number of blooms, you can see during the first 50 years it was not much, but in 1950 to 2009, this blooms numbers are really increased, occurrence of blooms in along the Indian coast. Now this could be because of either the coastal waters are facing a lot of nutrient loading because of the drainage and all, or it could be more of more reportings are because of the more awareness. Earlier, it is to blooms used to be there, but it is to go unnoticed. But now the awareness is more than reportings are getting more. Similarly, by this you can have get an idea like which month what where there is a bloom and what species forms a bloom. This is the blooms, like just couple of weeks back, in the vicinity, you can see in the Goan coastal waters, some of them may have collected the sample. You can see the change of the watercolor. And as I said, the bioluminescent forming organism, that is called a Noctiluca scintillans. So you can have a look of this microscopic image as well as the direct image of the water. And here you can have a look in during the night how they look, the bioluminescence effect. It looks beautiful, but then it is not good for the ocean health or the coastal health. So how to deal with this such problem? So as a researcher, we need to do a regular monitoring, then awareness campaigns in a simple language, like how right now we are doing in a simplistic, trying to convey our message. So similarly, the scientific vision has to be converted into social vision, so that there should be more citizen scientists. So, like, so they should be aware about what is, and then that they can help to formulate the policies regarding to control the blooms. So take home message is this, that like plants are very important, whether they are on the terrestrial or whether they are in the ocean. Okay. Because plants can survive without humans, but humans cannot survive without plants. With this message, I would like to conclude my presentation. Thank you. Yeah, Vinash, you're there?
Avinash, can you hear? Avinash, are you online?
I guess he's not there online, so.
Avinash is there. Avinash is there.
Yeah. Actually, there was a misconnection. Thank you so much, Dr. Ravi Das Nayak, for this informative presentation. And really, the people, participants has appreciated your presentation, and they are very happy that the way you have presented all the graphs in some cartoon form, some like photographs, and the way you have plotted in the pie diagrams and other part. It was really very important presentation by you. And there are the few questions has been raised by some of the reviewer and some of the participants. Then one of the few questions I will take up. The Shaolin, he or she was asked that how the polar and oceanic expedition is able to make the India as a self-reliant.
Yeah, you can hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. This looks like more very general this thing. That's what I said. Like polar expedition or polar research is very important, and because when we talk about the climate, climate doesn't see which country you belong to. The climate is whenever we study the global climate studies, it is mostly we take a global scenario, and that's the reason whatever graph initially I showed, it was a global carbon budget and all. So when we know that is the importance of that, like importance of phytoplankton, and or particularly from the polar ocean, because that particular polar ocean is considered as a major sink. This I forgot actually to mention. Even though that area covers only the 20% of the global ocean, but then it absorbs the 40% of the atmospheric carbon in that particular area. So if we want to study the global climate, so then definitely that polar studies is very important, and India's role and India's presence in that particular sector is very important, and that's what we are doing.
Thank you, Dr. Ravidas. There is another question by Dr. Luis. He has asked that you have talked about the global carbon dioxide crossing the 400 ppm.
Yeah.
So there is his query that MPT's plan to supply the coal to Karnataka for burning and make the steel. What is your opinion, whether it will be going to increase the carbon dioxide level?
That is a bit question which is well aware, because there is a lot of information available. Dr. Luis can, if he needs that, I can share with him, because there is a lot of published data on a burning, fossil fuels, what happens one particular, with respect to each fuel, and everything data is available. From that, probably Dr. Luis can get an idea like whether it is going to be a problem or not.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Ravidas, for your very informative talk and giving all the answers for our participants. Now in the last part, and that is my duty to just give a vote of thanks to this program, whoever involved for making this program successful. So dear all, it is my honor to extend my vote of thanks on behalf of institution NCPOR Goa. I express my heartfelt thanks to all the respected panelists and resource persons to making this event successful. I extend my sincere gratitude to Dr. Rohit Srivastav. He is a senior scientist and NCPOR, for helping and standing parallelly throughout the event. And one of my colleague, MB Ramesh, who was supporting during this when we started the program, he has sent the invitation to the school and colleges, and finally I'll heartfelt my gratitude to all the participants. Without them, it was not successful. So they have involved throughout the event. And for making this program, it is very important part is that I'm extremely grateful to our director, Dr. M. Ravichandran for his consistent support and encouragement during the event. And another pillar of this program is my sincerely thanks to Dr. Rahul Mohan, who has been supported, and he tried to make this event very, very successful during the panel discussion as well. And as we know, this is right now we are lacking with this Corona call what we shared, that period we are not able to meet directly and make the schools to be discussed directly, come and meet the scientists, see our facility. So but in that cases we have done the webinar. So my sincere thank to Mr. Swamiji and all the IT divisions members who has arranged these online sessions. It was very much important, rather than it cannot be possible for making this platform. And this program will be always will be in YouTube, so it can be benefited many more anytime. So I extend my appreciation to both the speakers, Ms. Divya Devi and Dr. Ravidas Nayak, again for the informative talk and illuminating the spark for the science and their wonderful presentation. I'm also thankful those who have contributed in one way to other way to make this event successful. And I'm pleased to share that it has been many participants has been participated, and they have maybe connected and disconnected. But there is a good participation, and this program will be always available in YouTube, and we will be also sharing this in our website. Once again, thanks to all the participant panelists. And we hope that large number of participation will be there in the main IISF, that is Indian Science Festival, which is going to be held during 22nd to 25th of December 2020. And I hope that all will be going to connect and see that entire India, entire institute, what they are working in the different field of science. And in my last but not least, my special thanks to the MUS Ministry of Earth Sciences and their committee members of IISF for taking this initiative to organize the event and promoting the science in all, especially for the young curious mind and our future scientists who will be able to take our nation in the new height. With this small appreciation and all the things, I thank you to all, and we will be, next program we will be doing in, we will be watching in the IISF how it is doing. India also, NCPOR also involving in there in the virtual platform. So you all are invited for during the 22nd to 25th of December in IISF. Thank you so much. So now we will be ending the session, and if possible, I'll request Dr. Rahul Mohan, sir, please, if you can share a few words so we can close after the session.
Thank you, Avinash, and thank you for giving me the floor again. I think I'll not take much time, only I need to thank each and everyone, and especially Dr. Avinash for giving his time and arranging everything. So thank you, Dr. Avinash, and thank you, Rohit, for supporting Dr. Avinash, and Nixon, of course, who has been there since morning. So thank you, Nixon, and thanks to the head of the IT, Dr. Sri Sami. Of course, as Avinash has mentioned, thanks to many, many people who indirectly or directly help us to achieve success here. All the panelists who joined here, all the general public and students who joined the lecture. I hope you enjoyed it, and please keep the scientific temperament and endeavors ahead. Keep asking questions, and hopefully we'll be able to answer most of your questions. Take care, and namaste, and thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now we'll close the session.